Hello and welcome everyone to Professional Certificate in Game Design Pre-Enrollment or Information Session. My name is Rudolf or Rudi Fahad. I'll be your moderator today. And with me, I have Professors Philip Tan and Michael Jacobson. And they're going to tell you more about this course in a second. So once again, welcome everyone to Information Session on Certificate in Game Design course from MIT xPRO, brought to you in collaboration with Emeritus. So thank you so much. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to wherever you are in the world. This brings me to this first slide. If you can help us by telling us in the chat where you're connecting from, that would be great. So let's see. Let's see, who is the first? All right, so if you just drop where you're connecting from, that would be great. Put that in the chat, please. I see a few people are already there, so don't be shy. Just tell us where you are in this world. There we go. So we got Pennsylvania, US in the house. Okay. Anybody else? And I think Philip and Michael are in Cambridge, of course.
In Somerville, right next to Cambridge.
All right. All right. Almost there. We got Chicago in the house. All right. All right. So don't hesitate. This is an interactive session, or it's meant to be. So if you have any questions, comments, please put them in the chat and or Q&A if you have questions. So we got Atlanta, Georgia in the house. We got Saudi in the house. We got Boston in the house. So brilliant. All right. So very international crowd. So from the morning to afternoon to evening, welcome everyone. So as I said, we have Philip Tan with us. We got Michael Jacobson with us as well. So just say hello for now, and you'll hear from them in a second.
Hi, everyone. Good to meet you.
Hi, everyone.
All right. So hopefully we're all settled in. So what is going to happen today? So we're going to talk a little bit about MIT xPRO, this program, who is it for? Philip and Michael will give you a bit of a flavor of what the curriculum is about, what other guest speakers are in the program as well, what are the key takeaways you can expect from the program, and we'll also talk about your day-to-day experience. How does that look like, right? This is a mix of live sessions and asynchronous learning. And there is an added bonus here. In case you're looking for a career change, there is also career counseling for you as a part of the program as well. So we're going to talk about that in a moment as well. So MIT, hopefully you've heard of MIT before, but in any case, it's ranked #1 in Forbes list of America's top colleges. And MIT is well known for being experts in anything technical, technology related, in rigorous academic study, in innovative research. But MIT xPRO is their online learning platform, which is focused on executive education, I would say. But in general, this is an online executive platform. This is what you will see here as well. So we will talk about game design, but also it's not going to be theoretical or academic. It will be about application a lot, right? So MIT xPRO programs are application focused. They are hands-on. You will learn how to do things, not just to talk about that, right? It is very nice to talk about game designs at cocktail parties, but Philip and Michael will actually teach you how to create games. So this is a fantastic skill to have, and you will hear more about this in a moment. So why are we talking about this? First and foremost, because the gaming market is a huge market, whether we talk about mobile or we're going to talk about tabletop as well. In general, we're still expecting strong growth, and therefore we're expecting a strong demand for game designers. You see here the average salary for a lead game designer, but of course this is just an average, and hopefully you will be able to get more as well with experience as well. And this is all because of this program as well. You know, we try to give you hands-on practical skills, something that you can really use in the real world. So who is it designed for? If you're a recent graduate or postgraduate, you can take this course, especially if you're in IT, or I would even go as far as STEM, but let's say IT or technology. if you are early career game professional, or if you're a creative professional. These are the three kind of foothold customer personas for us in this course. But of course, you can also check it whether this is the right thing for you or not by looking for or looking at the future job titles for you. And these could be game programmer, this could be content designer, game designer, narrative designer, level designer, user experience designer, or producer. One other thing, you may ask that question soon enough, but I'm just saying it already now. We would need people who have basic coding concepts familiarity. So you don't need to be a super duper coder, but you should be open to it, right? You should not be scared of it. Some of the assignments may require the use of the Unity game engine, but there will be tutorials also provided for you for that. But don't be scared of coding because there'll be some hands-on experience that you will need to do. So this is already the first question from the anonymous, right? So Michael and Philip will give you more flavor on this as they go through curriculum. But as I said, it's some basic familiarity with coding would be good. And whatever specific knowledge you need, there will be tutorials for that. But of course, the further down you are on your own, the easier will be this for you. So, Philip, let's hear from you. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Hi, I'm Philip. I'm a research scientist at the MIT Game Lab. I've been teaching at MIT for about 20 years on game design and game development, and doing research at MIT on using games for learning for a little bit longer than that, actually. So this is all based on the same sort of syllabus that we've used with undergraduates and grad students here at MIT in the Comparative Media Studies department, where both Michael and I are at. Before that, I had also worked at the Media Development Authority of Singapore, helping provide grants for game developers in Singapore to help get the companies and their projects off the ground. And since then, we've done research at MIT with Blizzard Entertainment, the Bose Corporation, that's the folks who make headphones and sound systems, Raytheon BBN, Firehose Games, and the Museum of Science in Boston. So yeah, I'll be glad to be able to take any of your questions as we go on with this webinar.
I don't want to disrupt your flow, Philip, but what really struck me is that you are a master assassin at the MIT Assassins Guild, which sounds also a little bit scary. So what is it about?
The MIT Assassin's Guild is a live action role playing group. We play a particular flavor of live action role playing, which is very competitive. In other words, you can actually win those games. It's not just a matter of being in the same space and play and taking on a role. So if you imagine like, a game of Dungeons and Dragons or something, or Baldur's Gate if you're on the computer, imagine actually dressing up as those characters, being one of those characters for, up to 10 days and acting out the scenes with your with other people. And some of those people are trying to kill you. That's usually involves being lightly tapped by a wiffle bat, or sometimes shot with a little plastic disc. No permanent harm except to your ego.
Perfect, because it's all virtual, right? That's the beauty of the
Yeah, it is.
online
It
game.
is. You can think of it as improv theater with rules.
Perfect. All
Mm.
right. Great stuff. So, Michael, over to you. Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Jacobson. My background is originally in informatics. At the time, I was living in Sweden, and I was doing my PhD thesis on social interaction in virtual worlds, which was sort of an emerging field at the time. We're now talking 25 years ago. And I got into game studies through that kind of work. So I've been teaching game studies and game design classes for about 25 years now. When I lived in Sweden, I also worked on the side as a game reviewer for a newspaper there, and I also do teach game criticism. I teach both at MIT and at Harvard Medical School, where I teach doctors and medicine and health educators to make games to represent their messaging. I've also worked with a lot of different game development companies as part of my research, including Ubisoft, Riot Games, Tencent, and Microsoft, and Activision. So a lot of my experience from the games industry comes through direct collaborations with these companies. I should also say I worked with King, the mobile phone game developer. So I have a bit of insight to that side of the industry as well. It's not just the video game companies. My background is in interaction design, so I think of game design very much as one flavor of a broader tree of design knowledge that can be expressed in different ways, whether you're an architect or a fashion designer. Ultimately, the foundation for what we are doing is the same, and it's very much this kind of foundation of what it means to be a designer, what your responsibilities as a professional designer are, and what your best practices are that we try to bring to this course.
All right, brilliant. So watch out for Micro's reviews of the games, right? I will definitely look out for your reviews. So let's see what you say about some of my favorites. Let's see about that. So here are some guest speakers also that you will see in the program. So Philip, can you tell us a little bit about them? What's their story? What's their angle when it comes to the course?
Right, we bring in guest speakers into the xPRO course because they have a lot of experience on specific areas of either game company operations or specific specialities in game development. So Heather Albano is a friend who works locally, but has also been behind a lot of interactive narrative games. So she's primarily a writer, but also works with companies that develop AAA games to help develop their characters, develop their stories, make them compelling so that they're actually, they feel more like people who live in a real universe than robots, that are just there for your amusement. So we asked her to talk and present on her expertise, and you'll be able to learn a lot from her segment. Eitan Gleinert is an alumni of MIT and our program. He was a master's student under me, and then started his own game company. This is way back in in the mid 2000s, and he's been running his company ever since. So he's going to talk in the course a lot about if you wanted to actually start your own venture, what are the priorities, what are the business decisions that you got to make, what's the day-to-day workflow of that sort of thing, as opposed to say joining a company. Richard Ludlow, who we worked with a few times, he originally worked with us as a student and again started his own company, but he specializes in audio. He's a sound designer, he's a music composer, and he's going to share his expertise specifically on the role and the process of creating music and sound effects for games. And Ginny is also an alumnus of MIT. And she'll talk about both the day-to-day of managing a project inside a game company, but also how you manage the community, the fans or the players who are engaging with your game, and what's the relationship between game developers and game companies and the people who play the games. So she'll be able to share her insight on that in the course.
All right,
I would
wonderful.
just, sorry, Rudy, can I just add that we tend to get some comments from students who have finished their program through LinkedIn or other places, and they tend to be very positive, but they especially tend to say that the guest speakers were great. So I am very proud and happy that we managed to gather this group of guest speakers for this program, and I agree with those comments. I think they are very insightful and great presenters.
Wonderful. So once again, this is an example of real life application of what you're going to learn in this program, right? So very much hands-on. So what are the key takeaways, Philip and Michael? What will people learn? And then we can talk a little bit more in detail.
Well, this gives me an opportunity to address Chad's question. Actually, what's the difference between game design and game development? And this course is about both. We will be talking about the thought process and the planning stages of how do you make a compelling experience for somebody who's going to play a game. That's game design. It is a role that is placed that is part of the process of turning a idea into a product, and that process of turning it into a product will be game development, something that can be shared with players around the world, and then they can actually play that. So part of the game design section of the course is going to be about thinking of all of the intricacies, right? All of the fine details of who's your audience, what sort of experiences are you trying to create, what are the different rule sets that are going to be able to create the experience that you want. And we'll go into greater detail later in the presentation about how that breaks down. But then we're also going to talk about, well, how do you communicate these ideas to a development team, to a group of people that are going to help you implement this idea by adding sound, by adding graphics, by creating stories and code to be able to help it run on a digital platform, for instance. Unless you're making a tabletop game, then your code is actually rules that a human being has to read. And we talk a lot about that in this course as well. So for folks who are interested in doing this as a career, then you want to be staying on the cutting edge, right? You don't just want to be developing yesterday's games. There's a lot of great games that already exist, and we have a lot to learn from them. But obviously, you want to be able to know how is the audience changing and what are the expectations changing. So the course goes into that. Around about the fourth quarter of the course, we'll go a little bit into that, but we start talking about that right from the beginning. Part of the course involves you actually documenting what you're doing on your own project. We have a big capstone project that comes near the end, and a lot of exercises that lead up to that. So you have to start creating your game diary, which is all of the work that you are putting and all the thinking that you're putting into your project. But it also helps build up your portfolio, which is really going to be the thing that actually ends up getting you hired if you're interested in a game career. Being able to show that you've worked on a game, that you've actually taken it to completion, is going to be the most valuable thing to show to a potential employer if you're looking for a job in the game industry. And so yeah, we make games in the game lab. We make tabletop games, we make digital games for different clients. Some of them go out to the public, some of them go out to a specific corporate audience, and we'll share that experience in this course as well. Other group projects, I think we're encouraging people to make connections with other people, both in the class and in their local game development community. And we have some tips in the course on how to get in touch with your local community. But in the end, every project is solo. You will be showing your own work in order to be able to complete the course, even though we strongly encourage people to help each other out.
Great stuff. So this is what is ahead of you, but let's talk about it a little bit more. And let's talk about part one, the foundations of game design.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the answer to that question. So, yeah, there is a lot of collaboration between the students using the different tools that Emeritus provides when you take this course, but everything is asynchronous. So you are not expected to show up at a certain time together with other people, because we do know that you are distributed all over the world in different time zones, etc. So the course is designed so that that is never going to be an issue for the learners. And so talking about the first part of the course, the foundations of game design, this goes a little further also, I think, to describing the difference between a course that is specifically on game development and one that is more broadly about game design that ours is. So a game development course tends to have a lot of focus on the technical coding aspects of making games. And we have sort of gone the other way and tried to take away as much of that as possible to center on practicing your design skills. So a lot of time when you make a game is going to go into the actual production effort of it, of writing code or whatever the tool you're using is requiring, which doesn't in and of itself have that much learning opportunity in it. So we have tried to take away as much of the production parts as we can, so we can really focus on the design parts, the evaluation parts, and the other aspects of becoming a professional game designer. So that's a lot of what we're doing in this section of the course. We think about why games are the way they are, that they need to fit into someone's everyday life, and they are going to replace some other activity that they would be doing if they weren't playing a game, and see how games can enrich people in their activities. We also talk about how people form different sort of social groups around their play activities and what that means for the cultural artifacts that we create for them. And then we go into the very fundamentals of what are the building blocks that eventually make up a game. So we talk about a lot about game mechanics, um, how to identify mechanics in games that you are playing. We're teaching you an analytical mindset for learning from other games that you're playing, because if you learn this mindset, then every game you play is a learning opportunity for you in your own design practices. Um, we also talk about some things that are often overlooked, I think, in other digital game development and game design courses. The different forms of interactions between different players in a game. We're moving away from a paradigm of one player, one screen, one input device, to a lot of different social modes of playing games, sometimes collaborative, etc., that I think broadens the canvas for the designer that you have to express yourself on. So we want students to to take that in and see all the opportunities that exist there. And then we talk about some specifics of the interactive design materials that are different from any other kind of media creation. The fact that the rules of a system can lead to phenomena that are impossible to predict by just reading the rules or looking at the code. That there is something when these complex, simple rules but complex systems give outcomes that are completely unpredictable, and how we deal with that when it comes to creating these systems.
Right. So a lot of how we deal with that is in the discipline of game design. Think of it as a muscle that you actually have to build up and you have to exercise. You have to get used to this process of iteration, and everything that you build needs to get tested by real human beings. In order to be able to understand, and not just yourself. You can't just keep testing your own game. That we will talk a lot in the course about how that rapidly becomes not very useful. You at best you can tell that your code works, but it doesn't actually tell you whether the game's any fun, for instance. We do talk a little bit more about creative decisions that can go into the design process, how choice and chance works in a game. How do players feel like they're actually having an impact in the outcome of the game, and some disciplines that you can practice on how to come up with ideas for games that aren't just replicating something that already exists. You're at least bringing a new spin on things or combining ideas that exist, but even better, you're putting a little bit of yourself into the game to create a unique product that's just not a cookie cutter replication of something that people already play. So we talk about low fidelity prototyping a lot in this class, because the idea is that if you can test your ideas in a format that can be played but doesn't require a lot of code compilation and syntax, for instance, a way to be able to get an idea whether this concept that you have for your game actually is going to work when it's put in front of real human beings, then you have a much better chance of being rewarded for all of the work that you're going to put into turning it into some sort of digital product or some sort of commercial product. So prototyping and playtesting, we often start with cardboard and markers and cards and boards, even if we're making a digital product, because it's a way for you to share your idea with either a development team or with the players that you're trying to entertain. We'll talk a lot about usability testing. Once a player has your product, how are they going to learn how to play it? Once they've played it for a while, how are they going to put their strategies, their own personal goals into your game in a way that they understand how to execute it, right? So usability is a concept that exists in many different disciplines. Over here, we have a very game-specific focus on usability. But in the end, it all comes back down to prototyping and testing and prototyping and testing and just getting used to that to that cycle. For a lot of folks, it's quite challenging. In fact, to put your half-baked ideas in front of people and inviting them to criticize it. But that's what you got to need. That's what you need to do as a game designer. You've got to build that into your routine. Otherwise, you'll never make a good game. You are at best just guessing that something is entertaining. And finally, we talk about the cultural responsibilities of a game designer in this module, where we talk about the work that we're putting out there into the world and what we what that says about the values of of your own work, but also about embodying ideas that can be understood by other people as they play your game. And games are a medium for ideas, and they communicate those ideas very differently than say a book or a film. Those are powerful media, but games are powerful too, and they are particularly well suited in transmitting certain complex ideas. But it's also very easy to sort of inadvertently um, reiterate biases or prejudices. And we want people to sort of be aware that as a game designer, you have control over some of that. And so you should take responsibility for the messages that you're putting out there into the world. So part three goes into more of the digital aspect of working with a game engine. We pick Unity partly because we're at MIT, we're pretty experienced with it. They have a free version that can be downloaded by anywhere in the world, by anyone in the world, and a lot of guides that are available online. So if our material, say, doesn't give you all the information that you need, there's almost certainly another guide that will help support that, some complementary learning material that you can find just with a Google search. And we talk about how to prototype a game in Unity. We have some sample code that you can download and you can read. Going back to the question about how proficient do you have to be in coding, you're gonna have to read other people's code. We've developed code that and guides that will hopefully be help ease that process. It's not entirely undocumented code. And we try to keep it as simple as possible. We try to make it accessible to you, but you've got to be comfortable downloading the Unity development environment and installing it on your computer and opening up a project that already exists and trying to figure out how it works with documentation, with guides. And so we talk about the things that digital games can do that tabletop games sometimes struggle doing. In the game feel section, for instance, the real-time sensations that you get by operating a game controller or a keyboard or a mouse and a computer that's responding to you in real time leads to some new considerations that you don't necessarily have to worry too much about when you're dealing with dice and a tabletop, for instance. We build on the cultural responsibility section by thinking about inclusivity and accessibility. So how do you make a game that can be played by even more people? And the idea is that if you make a game that's accessible to folks who might, say, for instance, have to deal with some sort of disability, you're actually making the game more playable to everybody who may not necessarily have that disability. So as an example, if you make a game that's playable one-handed, right? You just need one hand on a game controller. Then you've just made your game accessible to all of the new parents in the world who have to carry their kid and play the game at the same time. So that's the sort of thing that we talk about. We talk about color blindness. We talk about the use of multiple sources of feedback, like audio combined with video, combined with text, in order to be able to communicate what the state of the game is back to the player. And then we talk about ways that players input their choices into the game using a keyboard, using mouse, using their voice, even in-game controllers. Finally, we start talking a lot more about working in teams at this point. So how big is your project going to be? Are you going to be able to finish it? Are you going to be able to ship it? How large is the scope of your project, and how do you talk to other specialists in your space? You might eventually find yourself on a team where there are separate people doing coding and sound and art, different kinds of art, animation, concept art, illustration, and UI design. I think I already mentioned music. So how do you talk across these different disciplines? It helps to know a little bit about what each discipline does, and this course does actually give you a lot of the information partly through our guest speakers. But we want you to be able to understand that this itself is a skill set, is a highly valued skill set in any game development team, either commercial or otherwise. And we start to introduce these concepts here in part 3.
Maybe I can jump to the question in the Q&A and give a couple of my favorites, and then Philip, you can think about if you have anything to add for when you get back on the mic. But I think my all-time favorite book about game design is one called Rules of Play by Katie Salen, Tekken Boss, and Eric Zimmerman. And it's pretty old by now, but similar to what we do in this program, it takes a very sort of fundamentals approach to what game design really is and what the underlying skill sets are that we need to practice. So I think it still holds up, and it has a companion book which is an anthology of a number of different academic texts that relate to what games are and how they are made. My second favorite is probably Game Design Workshop by Tracy Fullerton. Tracy has a long-standing, very successful game design education program at UCI, and I think that book was also a big inspiration for me when we created this course. I don't know if you want to jump in with any more suggestions now, Philip.
Well, I definitely want to back up those 2 books, well, 3 actually, because you mentioned the game design reader. But I guess the one book I want to throw into the pile would be Challenges for Game Designers by Ian Schreiber and Brenda Romero. I believe the book is published under Brenda Brathwaite before she got married. But it's a very practical book of like specific activities that you can do at home when you're first learning the art. It's very much targeted at people who are just getting into game design, which might be appropriate for this audience. I found it very, very useful for my students because it gives you very concrete things that you can do at home or in a class to be able to sort of sharpen your skill set. So that's Challenges for Game Designers.
So brilliant book tips, but I would want to double check with you, Michael and Philip. These are optional, right? You don't need them to complete the certificate, complete the work. Everything that you need is actually in the course content. This is over and above what you will see in the course, right?
Yeah, this was specifically in response to the question that we got in chat, but it is not a requirement. Still strong recommendations, though. I mean, if you're if you're interested in game design, you'll always be learning. You'll take this course, and we'll have all the material provided for you, and then you will always want to be seeking out new insight and new knowledge.
Of course. And we have a question from Anonymous. He's asking, does the program cover Unreal Engine 5?
And it does not. You are welcome to use Unreal for your projects, but we do not provide any learning material for Unreal. Really, we had about enough time to provide learning resources for one game engine. 2 would have been too much. And Unreal requires, it has a certain number of barriers to entry that we find doesn't really work for international audience, which Unity tends to be a little bit more lightweight and can run on more platforms. And it's a little bit easier for people to get started. At least that's been our experience here at MIT.
So great stuff. If you have more questions, please put them in the Q&A, of course. But in the meantime, let's move on. Let's look at the key program features. So once again, what you will get at the end of it, if you complete all the assignments that are required, you will get the digital certificate from MIT xPRO. You will get, obviously, the content. You will get the insights from MIT Game Lab instructors and industry experts. There will be also live weekly office hours with learning facilitators. So it's a mix of asynchronous and live sessions that you will get. Everybody expects you to actually do it maybe while you are at work or you're still studying. So there's a lot of flexibility built into the program, so you can do it whenever it suits you. But also it is very much hands-on. So you will compile the game diary, a portfolio of your work, which you can show to your employers in addition to resume, in addition to CV. And of course, there will be also, as typically is in these courses, a capstone project where you will showcase your knowledge and skills that you've gained throughout the program. And one other thing, which is over and above the many programs out there, because maybe you are doing it as you want to plan your next career move, etc., you will get one-on-one career support from Emeritus as well when you take this course. So this is the kind of an end game for you. And maybe a little bit more in detail. Yes, there will be assignments. You can expect that there will be weekly assignments. On the other hand, there's nobody going to be there with the stopwatch and saying you are 5 minutes late, you're out of the course. So there is some flexibility there. There is a program support also. They will help you with any administrative or logistical questions, etc. Anything that has to do with the technical issues, if there are any things like that. So there's a huge army of people behind the scenes supporting Michael, Philip, and learning facilitators to deliver this to you. On the other hand, I know it sounds like a cliche, but the more you put in, the more you get out of it, right? So that's why you will do, hopefully, the assignments where you do a bit of a coding in Unity, but also there will be discussion forums for you, which your learning facilitator will moderate, but it's mainly for you to actually use it for networking, for bouncing off ideas from one another, and learning from others as well, and their experiences or their challenges as well. And at the end of the day, we'll need to obviously judge whether you put enough effort somehow. So there'll be knowledge checks to deal with as well. One other thing on the career guidance, right? So what can you expect? You can expect how to focus and narrow your job search, how to prepare for the interviews, no surprise there, but also how to negotiate your salary, how to craft your elevator pitch, because not everybody always wants to listen to you for half an hour and an hour when you want to tell them why you are the right person for the job. Of course, these days without LinkedIn profile, there's not much you can do. So we'll talk about optimizing your LinkedIn profile and writing resumes and cover letters, of course, as well. And there'll be exercises that are specific to building your game design career, such as the ones you see on the right, whether it talks about, whether it relates to personal brand, workflows of game design, job searching for these particular job positions in game design, and communicating game design concepts and reflecting on your skills, how to become an efficient leader as well in the gaming industry. And this is how the digital certificate looks like. It now looks like a picture, but it is actually digital. So when people want to do a background check on you, there will be a way to verify that this is genuine. So it's not just a PDF, copy or made up a piece of paper, but it's something that took some time to get to. You see, it took it says it takes 36 continuing education units. So that's also gives you a bit of a flavor of how complex or how much effort you will need. And the program runs for 6 months. And you also got contact in the chat if you want to know more about this. But at the end of the day, here is what you can do going forward. So either this is all clear to you, so then you can just apply on my left side. You scan the QR code if you have a phone with you and apply now, or my colleagues will put the link in the chat right now. So if you are clear that this is the thing that you want to pursue, then just register by clicking on the link apply now or scanning the QR code on my left. If you have more questions, you can also have a one-on-one discussion with one of our advisors. So that's on my right. You can schedule a call to learn more, and they'll go through this with you and your individual questions you might have. Of course, It also is what is also a topic is how to pay for tuition, and there are plenty of opportunities to help you there. For instance, with flexible payment plan, there are discounts or benefits if you apply as a group. There are also referral benefits if you refer other people, etc. And also, we will support you if your employer will pay for this and will give you any information that you need for your employer sponsorship as well. So you see in the chat the links from my colleagues, how to schedule a call with an advisor, or also how to schedule, how to actually apply for the program as well. So 2 things. And you got the link 3 times for some reason, but in any case, the 2 links in the message, that is how to apply if it's all clear, or the second link is how to schedule a call that will lead you to a Calendly. You can book a call, a video call with an advisor easily. When it comes to exams for certificate and requirements, let's come back to this here as well. So it says you need to get 75% to pass. There are some graded assignments that you need to do, and then you will get the certificate, which also is something that people typically share on LinkedIn. You can tag the program leader or the faculty as well, I'm sure, and generally gets a great reception on LinkedIn. And you know, the self-promotion never hurts in this world, because who else will do it for you, right? All right. So any questions, please put them in the chat. Is this exam essay to pass? There's a capstone project. So maybe Philip or Michael, if you could tell us more about the capstone. How does that actually look like?
It's basically you're gonna make a working game. You're gonna have to test out your ideas. You're gonna have to like actually build out a low fidelity prototype, and then you translate it into digital format. It's got to compile. It's got to run. It's got to it's got to be something that other people can actually play and complete. Now, what that completion of the game means depends on the game, right? You know, in some cases it's a cooperative game. In some cases it's an online game. In some cases it's a single player game. I believe we also allow people to do tabletop projects. Yeah, and Mikhail is confirming that. Well, you got to make a game that you could put into a box or an envelope and then just hand it over to somebody else, and they should be able to play the game entirely on their own without without you being in the room, or if they need 3 or 4 players, then with 3 or 4 players. So that's the thing that you gotta pass in order to be able to get this certificate. You've got to show that you can actually make a game. That certificate combined with your actual working game is the thing that's going to have the currency that is going to convince anybody else that you're actually capable of making a game. So that's yes, it is a decent amount of work, and it should be, because if you care about the games that you're making, then you're going to try to make the best game that you can given your current skill set. No doubt with more experience you'll be able to make more complex games, more intricate games, maybe even more elegant games. But being able to show that you can complete a project that actually works is kind of the big goal of this course.
Wonderful. So I went back to that page where when we talk about a capstone, it says you need to develop a functional game, as Philip said, right? So it has to be a game that works. How pretty does it have to be, Philip, in terms of graphics? Because I've seen that old picture during the pandemic. There was a programmer there and saying, I wanted to go out, but the graphics were no good, so I stayed at home, right? So how good is it gonna be? Is this like Xbox, PlayStation ready, or Steam? How difficult is it going to be?
How good are your art skills, right? I think in the course we talk a lot about making the best out of the skill set that you have. And there have been games that have been executed by designers with who are very limited in their ability to create something beautiful, but they work within their limitations to create something that's compelling, that's easy to understand, that that is fun to play. So if you happen to be someone who who's invested a lot of time developing their art skills, then games can be an awesome medium to be able to showcase that. And yes, it also takes a lot of work to be able to convert that into something that works on screen or on tabletop. But it's also not a requirement to make something that looks gorgeous. That's definitely not a bar that you need to clear. The question often comes down to, can we understand what's going on the screen? Right, if all your characters are stick figures, then maybe you want to embrace that stick figure design aesthetic, and make a game that's all happening on, a sketchpad or something like that, and lean into a unique look. There have been a number of games that use pixel art, for instance, which is kind of a low resolution version of depicting things on screen that has a long history in game design. And you could take a shot of that. I've seen wonderful games where everything's just a square or a cube, but you understand everything that's going on screen because the game has introduced the complexity to you in a way that's very usable. So yeah, we require you to think creatively about what your game looks like, but we do not have like a art quality bar that you need to clear.
All right, because of course also we need to be reasonable. This is a single person assignment, right? This is not a company that worked on this for 5 years and spent $100 million on it. So it has to be functional, but don't be too hard on yourself, right? Okay.
As for third-party assets, you can actually use third-party assets, but you've got to be very careful about the licensing for those third-party assets. And that's actually something that we talk about in the course, is that, for instance, one nice thing about Unity is that there is, in fact, an asset store where you can actually purchase or download for free art assets that you can use in your game, or sound assets for that matter. And you can find them online as well, but then you got to put in the effort to make sure that you are clear in terms of copyright and licensing to be able to use that work in your game. You can't just take artwork from a existing copyrighted game and use them in your game. That's not allowed. So just understanding the legality of using external work in your game is part of the course, actually. So you learn some steps on how to think about that and how to incorporate that in your game.
I also want to add that you have to be very clear what parts of the game content that you created yourself and what that you have licensed or borrowed from someone else. So in the evaluation, if there is some fantastic shader graphics or something, it's not going to count for you if it's actually made by someone else. But I always really appreciate when students use their own art, make their own sounds or soundtrack, just because it's sort of more of an expression of yourself that you're putting in there, and I care less about whether it looks to a professional grade or something like that. I think the personal expression is always very valuable to me, at least.
Something that you create on your own is more likely to be unique and stand out from a lot of cookie cutter stuff that's already out there, and we're less interested in the cookie cutter stuff.
Right. So just like in any other assignments, what we're looking for is original effort, or some effort that you put into this original work, your individual work, even though we encourage you to network with others and maybe to discuss things, but at the end of the day, your submissions will be only yours. Maybe that leads to a popular question these days, Philip and Michael. How do you feel about using AI for coding? If that would help or not, and how do you feel about this?
Do you understand what the AI is suggesting that you do, right? A lot of folks, try to get sample code from AI in the same way that a lot of folks use search engines to find sample code that exists out there in the web. In fact, we encourage folks to seek out other learning resources if there's like specific kind of, I don't know, physics that they want to put into the game, a specific kind of shader that Mikhail was talking about. They want their computer game to do something that they know exists in games, and someone's probably written something about it. We encourage people to go out and look for that, and sometimes something like ChatGPT or something could actually sort of point you towards an existing resource that will help you there. But then, now that you've got that, do you understand how that works? Do you understand how, and incorporating that in your game, do you understand how that's going to affect the enjoyment of your game, or how your game is going to perceive, or how your game is going to run? If you can debug it, if you understand how it works, and you can fine tune it to make it do exactly the thing that you want to do, I don't see a problem with that. It's a way of learning. It's a learning resource. But if you are just copying and pasting, and you're hoping that what the AI suggested is going to work for you, I think you will very quickly discover that you will be running into roadblocks very quickly. You will end up with something that's going to not behave in the way that you expected, and you're not going to be able to have a way to redirect it back on the path that your original vision pointed you at.
I just want to add that Unity as a game engine is doing a lot of the work for us already under the hood. So when we call a function that spawns a room, we don't have to understand in detail what all that code is doing, but we need to know how to use it in a way that doesn't generate errors that we can't problem solve. So we haven't been coding games from scratch since the 80s anyway. We've always been building on existing function libraries. And I think the AI debate is a little bit similar in that we do lean on technology to do sort of the manual labor for us sometimes, but we always need to understand how all the parts work in order to make them work for us. So I don't think all that much has changed, but there's maybe more of an incentive to try to just make the system make the game for us, but that just never works. And just currently in the games industry, we have a big sort of blowback from players that are seeing AI being used in game development in ways that actually makes the games worse, and they won't accept that. So I think it's very important that we don't sacrifice quality or individual expression, the craft and art aspect of making games that actually is what makes them interesting to play.
All right, wonderful. I think that's clear. So there are pre-existing ready-to-go blocks, but you are responsible for using them. Transparency is the key. And there's an old saying from another field of controls, you can outsource the work, but not the responsibility, right? That's kind of what you said. That's how I read it. So once again, please have a look at the QR codes in front of you or the links in the chat if you are with us live. If this is clear, then you can apply on my left side, or if you want to talk more one-on-one, you can schedule a call with an advisor on the right side. And otherwise, I would just ask you if you have any final question, please put that in the Q&A now. And otherwise, we will hope to see you soon in this course. It sounds like an exciting course, right? Obviously, it will be some work because it's hands-on. It's about application. It's about real-life skills. So If this is something that appeals to you, once again, on my left side, you can register, or my right side, you can talk more about this individually as well. So any final question? Sounds it's all clear, Philip and Michael. So thank you so much for all your time and insights. Fascinating, exciting industry. And at the same time, when you work, you can have fun. So what's not to like? So see you soon in the course, hopefully.
Thanks for all the questions, folks. Hope to see you in the course.
Thank you.
Thank you.